Manila's air is thick with more than just carbon. It is the visible byproduct of a transport system that has stopped moving, both on the road and in the books. After 12 hours behind the wheel, many traditional jeepney drivers are now ending their shifts with a take-home pay of roughly 30 pesos. The administration has prohibited drivers from raising fares to protect the public from inflation. But while fares are frozen, the global price of diesel is not, leaving the driver to fill the gap with their own daily earnings. One lever remains untouched. The president has the authority to suspend the fuel excise tax, which would provide immediate relief at the pump. But that lever has stayed locked in place. This tax was originally implemented to fund the massive Build, Build, Build infrastructure program. But today, the projects that once justified this collection are largely absent, yet the tax remains, keeping fuel costs artificially high during a period of global volatility. It raises a difficult question. Why is the state prioritizing tax collection and corporate stability over the survival of its most iconic transport workers? In 2017, the government proposed a solution designed to avoid this exact energy trap. The Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program was an attempt to shift the nation's transport away from the fluctuations of the global oil market. The plan was simple in its technical goal: replace every traditional jeepney with either a Euro 4 compliant engine or a fully electric vehicle. To make it affordable, they introduced the 5-6-7-8 scheme, a 5% down payment, 6% annual interest, and 7 years to pay. This was backed by a 160,000 peso subsidy intended to act as the primary buffer against the new technology. Beyond the engine, the plan targeted the boundary system, a model where drivers take all the financial risk. It proposed making drivers salaried employees with mandatory benefits like SSS and PhilHealth. The goal was to transform a high-risk informal sector into a stable, salaried workforce, permanently shielded from the rising costs of fossil fuels. However, the rollout faced an immediate wall of opposition. Transport groups and political critics branded the high cost of the new vehicles as anti-poor, arguing that the debt would crush small-time operators. These mass rallies created a political stalemate. Faced with mass strikes and a narrative that the program was an attack on the livelihood of the poor, the government's momentum slowed and the transition stalled in its tracks. Ironically, those same groups now find themselves without a safety net to offer the drivers they once claimed to protect. Drivers who are now earning almost nothing because they remain tied to the old system. Because the shift to electric power was delayed, the entire transport sector remained tethered to the pump. When global oil prices spiked, the drivers had no alternative energy source to fall back on. The friction didn't just stop a vehicle upgrade, it kept an entire class of workers trapped in a business model that was already failing. Today, that delay has grown into a macroeconomic liability. Every kilometer a traditional jeepney travels makes the country more dependent on imported oil. This dependency forces the nation into a weak position in geopolitical negotiations. When a country is desperate for energy security, it is often forced to make concessions in joint oil exploration talks with foreign superpowers. But consider the math of the alternate reality. If the 2017 plan had been implemented as designed, the 7-year payment cycles would be reaching their conclusion right now. By 2024, operators who took those 5, 6, 7, 8 loans would have finished their final payments. By 2026, thousands of operators would have owned their electric fleets outright. They would be operating with near-zero fuel costs, completely independent of the global oil markets that currently dictate their survival. Instead, we have a phantom fleet, an imagined army of electric vehicles that would have been profitable today, but was never built. The 2017 blueprint was an exit ramp from this crisis. Because that ramp was blocked by political friction, it is the driver who is now left to pay for the delay, one 30 peso day at a time.